Episode 269, AI Year in Review 2025.
The primitive forms of artificial intelligence we already have proved very useful.
AI is a golden opportunity.
How do we ensure that this technology is regulated?
The long arc of technological history is now in an extraordinary new phase.
The AI 6 podcast with Joanne Sweeney.
I've described 2025 as my year of AI and what a year it's been. But in today's long listen, I'm looking back at the year of AI in general, the news, the views, and the big trends. Hello and welcome back to AI 6. If 2024 was the year AI became a household topic, 2025 was the year it turned into a reality and us using it every day. Billions were invested. We had billion user platforms that pushed AI deeper into everyday tools. And regulators finally brought rules with force. China shifted expectations overnight. Coding started changing at speed. And the gap between hype and what AI can actually do began to close. With almost 270 episodes of AI 6 this year, I've tracked every twist and turn of this extraordinary 12 months. Today, I'm going into my podcast archives, bringing you the year of AI in review. The stories that shaped AI in 2025 and what that means for all of us heading into 2026. Of course, we have to start in January because in January 2025, everything changed. Late into the month, a Chinese AI lab most people had never heard of released a model called DeepSeek R1. And within a week, it had wiped almost $600 billion off the value of NVIDIA, the company that makes AI chips. And here's why it was a big news story. For years, the assumption in Silicon Valley, and indeed across the world, was simple. Bigger is better, more compute, more GPUs, more billions of dollars, and that was the recipe for frontier AI. But DeepSeek R1 challenged that assumption in spectacular fashion and essentially overnight. The model reportedly cost just $6 million to train, compared to $100 million or more for comparable Western models. It performed on par with OpenAI's O1 model on reasoning tasks, and it was open source. Sam Altman described it as a wake-up call. Tech stocks tumbled, and suddenly the narrative shifted from scale is all you need to efficiency might matter just as much. What DeepSeek proved is that the AI race isn't a one-shot competition. It's iterative, and it has evolved right across the year. And innovation can come from anywhere, including a hedge fund spin-off in Hangzhou that most of Silicon Valley had dismissed. And with DeepSeek's efficiency breakthrough, a different message landed. You don't need Google's budget to build something useful with AI. And that's been a real theme of 2025. In February, we had another milestone, and this one around regulation. On February 2nd, the first prohibitions under the EU AI Act came into force. For the first time, certain AI applications were officially banned across all 27 EU member states. Now, I covered this in episode 248 when we discussed the delays and the debates, and that the final rules were being put back until 2027. But certain things were not put back. Social scoring systems. AI that scrapes facial images from the internet to build recognition databases, emotion recognition in workplaces and schools, and predictive AI in policing based purely on profiling. As we know, the EU AI Act is the most comprehensive AI law anywhere in the world. And because the EU has reach across 27 countries, it affects any AI system that touches EU citizens regardless of where the company is based. For those of us working in AI in marketing and communications and the public sector, this matters. It sets a precedent. It establishes guardrails and it signals that the era of move fast and break things is giving way to move thoughtfully and stay compliant. By August, the rules extended to general-purpose AI models, requiring transparency and copyright compliance. But 2025 was the year that we saw regulation come into force. Then we had the rise of vibe coding, probably one of my favourite stories of the year and one of my favourite experimentations in AI this year. In February, AI researcher Andrej Karpathy, a co-founder of OpenAI and former AI lead at Tesla, posted an X post that went absolutely viral. He wrote about a new kind of coding he called vibe coding, where you can fully give in to the vibes, embrace exponentials, and forget that the code even exists. I talked about this in episode 254 when I vibe coded my own app using Base 44. And let me tell you, Karpathy wasn't exaggerating. The idea is simple, but it's quite radical. Instead of writing code line by line, you describe what you want in plain English, and the AI writes the code for you. And as I mentioned, I've been using Base 44 this year. By March, Y Combinator reported that 25% of startups had code bases that were 95% AI generated. A quarter of the newest tech companies are building on code they largely didn't write themselves, but AI did. Security researchers have raised valid concerns about bugs, vulnerabilities, and technical problems when vibe coding, but my point is vibe coding is brilliant for prototyping, for ideation, and to bring an idea or a minimal viable product to a tech team who can then lock it down and secure it and add those very important governance layers. For non-developers like me who want to build based on experience and based on ideas that you're having in real-world scenarios, it's an absolute game changer. Also, Collins Dictionary named vibe coding their word of the year for 2025, and Karpathy himself said it would transform software and alter job descriptions. 2025 was also the year of agents. For a few years now, we've been talking with agents, asking questions, getting answers, kind of like Alexa or Siri. But that's been the chatbot era, like you'd find on a website or with one of your utilities' WhatsApp's accounts. But in 2025, AI started doing things on our behalf. In episode 259, I talked about the 3 types of AI workflows: chats, assistants, and agents. And the difference is crucial. A chatbot answers your question, an assistant helps you complete a task, and an agent takes action autonomously. We saw this play out across the major platforms. Anthropic's Model Context Protocol, or MCP, became the de facto standard for connecting AI agents to external tools. OpenAI launched its Atlas browser, where AI can navigate websites, fill out forms, and make purchases on your behalf. And Google's agent-to-agent protocol enabled different AI systems to collaborate on complex tasks. And then there's Claude Code, which Anthropic positioned as the first convincing demonstration of what an AI agent actually looks like. It strings together tool use and reasoning for extended problem solving, running on your computer with access to your environment and your data. And in a study, 82% of executives surveyed said they plan to adopt AI agents within the next 1 to 3 years. So the gap between experimentation and deployment is closing, and fast. For those of us in marketing and communications, agents aren't somewhere in the future. They're actually here. They can schedule your content, analyze your data, draft your reports. And the question isn't whether to use them, but how we can use them responsibly, because the technology exists. Of course, throughout 2025, there were large language model wars, intense competition between the AI giants. OpenAI started the year strong with their 12 days of shipments in December 2024, rolling into January with the full release of their O1 reasoning model and the $200 per month ChatGPT Pro tier. Sora finally launched publicly for video generation, and the O3 reasoning model was previewed. But then move forward to August, and what some called OpenAI's botched launch of GPT-5. There was big hype, Sam Altman had called it a PhD-level expert in anything, but when it landed, the reaction was kind of muted. Some critics said the biggest vibe shift since ChatGPT first appeared, but underwhelming. And this opened the door for Google, who, now we know, had been working hard behind the scenes. Gemini 3 launched in November, and suddenly Google was stealing the AI show. They caught up to OpenAI in monthly active users. Anthropic announced they'd use up to 1 million Google AI chips, and the narrative flipped. Google started 2025 behind in the AI race, but ended the year on top. In my episode 244, I asked whether Gemini 3 was the best AI model yet. The benchmark suggested it might be. And then just last week, OpenAI fired back with GPT 5.2. I covered this in episode 262. 3 variants: Instant for speed, Thinking for depth, and Pro for accuracy. A 400,000 token context window. The AI battles continue. For everyday users, meanwhile, the good news is this: competition is driving innovation. We will get better models, better products, better outputs. And ultimately, faster, cheaper, and more capable. One of the most dramatic shifts of 2025 was AI video. Sora 2 launched in September with something new: synchronized dialogue and native audio. For the first time, AI-generated videos could feature characters who spoke, with sound effects and music that matched the visuals. Google's Veo 3 arrived in May with similar capabilities. Kling 2.6 from China joined the race. And suddenly the quality gap between AI-generated video and professional production started to shrink. The implications were immediate. Small businesses began producing short ads independently. Major brands like Coca-Cola and McDonald's adopted these tools for high-profile campaigns, and the economics of video production shifted overnight. And then came the Disney deal. In December, Disney invested $1 billion in OpenAI to allow users to generate more than 200 of its iconic characters on Sora. Mickey Mouse, Marvel heroes, Star Wars characters, all available for AI generation. I covered this in episode 260. And it represents a fundamental shift in how intellectual property might work in the AI era. There was some sort of hype correction with the release of MIT's technology review, called the Great AI Hype Correction. In July, researchers at Massachusetts Institute of Technology published a study showing that 95% of businesses that had tried using AI found zero value in it. In November, a study by Upwork found that agents powered by top models from OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic failed to complete many straightforward workplace tasks by themselves. The vision of AI agents joining the workforce that Sam Altman had predicted maybe wasn't quite there yet. However, we know with time and the evolution of the technology, they get better, and they often release models and versions to the market before they are perfect. Because remember, they need the mass market to test and to use them, and that is an invaluable training ground. The Stanford AI Index revealed somewhat of a contradiction. AI-related incidents spiked 56% to a record 233 cases in 2024, even as capabilities improved. The technology was getting better, but so were the problems. And so what about that hype correction? Is it a failure of AI? Well, actually, it's just the point I previously made. It's an evolution. It's a maturation. We're moving from AI can do anything to AI can do specific things well. And of course, remember, we're in the driving seat. And maybe if you're not getting the best out of AI, it's because you're not putting the best in and you're not thinking about the data that you're training it on or fine-tuning what you're creating. For those of us training organizations to use AI, it's really useful to understand where we're at in the AI race and also at what maturity level organizations are at, because it lets us set expectations for those that we're working with. It helps us focus on genuine use cases rather than something that may be possible. And that's why I built my AI framework around know it, use it, and govern it. Now let's talk about AI at work. OpenAI released its first State of Enterprise AI report this year, showing how over 1 million workplace accounts are using ChatGPT at scale. I covered this in episode 261. The adoption is real and it's also accelerating. According to McKinsey, 88% of organizations now report using AI for at least one business function, up from 55% in 2023. The cost of AI systems has decreased by about 30% annually. And private investment in AI in the US reached $109 billion in 2024 and kept growing in 2025. But here's the tension I keep seeing in my AI work. Employees want to use AI with repetitive drudgery, like scheduling, filling in data into spreadsheets, fixing errors, repurposing content. But trust is a barrier. 45% doubt AI's reliability and 23% fear job losses. Anthropic released a fascinating study using what they called Anthropic Interviewer, a cloud-based tool that conducted large-scale interviews about how people feel using AI at work. I discussed this in episode 258. And the findings are nuanced. People want AI to help, but they want it on their terms. And my advice hasn't changed. AI works best as a collaborator, not as a replacement. The human in the loop isn't just a safety feature, it's where the real value gets created. So we look back in order to look forward. So where does that leave us now at the end of 2025? Well, this year AI stopped being a novelty and it started to be a necessity. The models improved dramatically. The tools grew, expanded, regulations came into force, and we have all agreed that AI is here to stay. For me personally, this year has been extraordinary. I delivered AI workshops to many organizations right across the world, in Ireland, in the UK, in mainland Europe, and in the United States. And then also to over 1,000 others through my free monthly AI webinars. In total, I've trained over 3,000 people this year, spoken on 23 stages in 17 cities, and I've watched organizations move from curiosity to implementation. And through it all, I've recorded this podcast tracking every development, every breakthrough, every setback. And when I started this podcast in February, my ambition was to upskill 500,000 people on AI in just 6 minutes a day. So thank you to everyone who has tuned in once or to every episode. And I hope you find it valuable, because my promise is, even if we don't do business, you will always learn from me for free. You will always learn from me for free, whether it's through this podcast, my free monthly webinars, or at a really low cost, getting a copy of AI Playbook that I launched in September. So 2026 must be the year of AI impact. That means moving from experimentation to implementation, having multiple use cases in your organization, embedding them and scaling them right across your company. The technology is ready, the regulations are forming, and the question now is whether we are ready to use it wisely, to use it for good, but also to use it for impact. I hope you enjoyed this wrap episode of the year of AI in 2025. Don't forget that I'm always looking for guests on the AI6 podcast. Simply send me a DM on LinkedIn or drop me an email to joanne@digitaltraining.ie. And I'd love to have you on the show to talk about how you are using AI and advancing AI for good in your organization or your business. I'm Joanne Sweeney. This is AI6. I'll be back on the next episode.